Goddess, and I am here to talk about this new moon eclipse that's going to be happening tonight. So anyhow, this time I've done a little preparation with some notes in general about this particular eclipse and eclipses in general. So I thought it would be a good time to kind of review some of these things with everybody. In a minute, I can't see the chat yet, but it will pop up here, I think, in just a minute. I'll see if I can bring it up on this side too. Let me see here. Yeah, yay, okay, I can see some comments over here. Awesome, you guys, welcome. Okay, let's just dive right in. So, this is gonna be a big night. And we're already in the eclipse zone, so the energy has already been percolating, but we're going to have a new moon, total annular hybrid solar eclipse in Aries at 9:12 p.m. Pacific time, which means it will be 12:12 a.m. Eastern time. And this particular new moon eclipse is in Aries. This is the second new moon in Aries we've had in a row, because last month it was at the very early beginning of Aries, and this one is at the very end of Aries. So we're getting this huge infusion of Aries energy. Yeah, hi everybody. Okay, I can start to see the comments. Woo! It's great to be here with you. So, I don't know if you guys have been already feeling it. I already this morning was feeling some of the Aries, I guess, energy, and realizing in myself places where I need to pay attention to, am I pushing ahead too much my own agenda without stopping and cooperating, right? These are some of the more shadow sides of Aries. Aries on the real highest expression is strong and courageous and takes the lead, right? It gets things moving, it takes action. And there's a certain level of passion with Aries, right? Aries is like, ooh, it's like life force turned on. But on the flip side, and some of you are bringing up feeling anxious, so Aries is so very much kind of linked with that adrenaline feeling. And so sometimes when that energy gets stirred up, especially around an eclipse that's coming later tonight, you can feel that anxious energy. So back to then, kind of the more shadow side of Aries, sometimes Aries is pushy, sometimes impatient, sometimes it is overly assertive. It forgets kind of that there's a team to work with or someone else to listen to, and then we just sort of jump forward. So it's funny, like my first steps into the office today were to talk to one of my colleagues about how I realized I could do a better job collaborating and not kind of pushing my agenda forward. Even when, even if you feel like things are not moving at the pace you need them to, there's a way to find more balance in there. Yeah, the advice about moving your body is absolutely good advice, right? Aries is an active sign. It is about the body and movement and action. So even if you're not gonna go do a physical workout, even at your chair or your desk or your couch or wherever you are, just shake it out. Sometimes I take my head and I go like this a lot. And Aries rules the head, it's linked with the head. So just kind of shaking that up so the energy can kind of realign and settle differently can be helpful. All right, before I jump into some of the basics here, I want to mention this. Those of you who are more familiar with your chart or know a little bit more about astrology, if you know where 29 degrees Aries is in your birth chart, that is where the eclipse is going to be. So in your birth chart, wherever 29 degrees Aries is, that house, that area of life is where the eclipse is really going to kind of flash the lights off and on, so you could have more awareness in that area. If you don't know that, it's no problem. There's plenty of information to work with it without knowing those specific details. But if you do have your chart and you have it handy, that will help you. So for example, for me, 29 degrees Aries falls in my first house. So myself, my health, my leadership, kind of how I take the lead in my own life, how I am the author of my own destiny, these first house types of things, even my self-image, right? How I put myself out there. This eclipse can really bring awareness for me around that area, which fits, right, with what I was just sharing as, coming in this morning and actually having to own some of that stuff around how I show up or kind of move into life. And in this case, how I can soften that down a little bit. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit. Now, one other little thing I want to say, I was thinking this morning in the shower, I was sort of thinking about the things that were important to bring up around this. So when there's an eclipse with a new moon, we typically recommend not setting new intentions right away, right? Give it like 48 hours, give it a little time after the eclipse so that the information and the awareness and the things that kind of flash or drop in, so you have time to integrate them before you make a big move or start something new or set that new intention. But, and I always say this, right? That's good advice, but your intuition is always going to be best. So if for whatever reason your inner guidance system is saying, I need to set this intention today, go with yourself first. This is a good Aries reminder, go and do you, right? So it's kind of like, and on Friday, I'm going to pop on here and talk about Mercury retrograde. It's kind of like during Mercury retrograde, we recommend, not signing contracts or not necessarily putting things in motion if you can wait, but sometimes you can't wait. And it doesn't mean that you can't, do anything during these times, but being aware of how the energy flows more naturally can help. The other piece here, all right, so right now, it's not new moon yet, right? The new moon is going to be exact 9:12 p.m. Pacific time, 12:12 a.m. technically tomorrow morning Eastern time. So we're going to still do a new moon ritual tonight because today's the day, and I hope you all come. That's one of my favorite things we do here at Sage Goddess. Athena does such a good job, so please consider, 5 p.m. we're doing that Pacific time. But I'm saying this because those of you, if you can use the energy today up until 9:12 p.m. Pacific time to let things go, that's really useful. Because right now we're still in what's called the balsamic moon phase, or also called the waning crescent or the dying moon. And so at that very end of the moon cycle, right before it's going to move into new moon, it has like a natural Pisces energy to it, that whole phase, which can be like the ocean washing things away. So, one of my teachers used to say the very end of the moon cycle is the best time to get hair waxed or removed, right? Because it releases easier. When it becomes new moon, everything anchors and holds on, right? It wants to root in. So like right now, as we're talking and as we're knowing that this eclipse is coming and the new moon, and we're maybe going to get new information and new perspectives and new ideas, but not take action quite yet, think about how you can kind of clear some stuff out of your path so that you are really set up for those new intentions and new beginnings that you may set in the next few days, as we talked about. So some people are bringing up, what if you have Aries in Chiron, or I think what you mean is what if you have Chiron in Aries? Yeah, so lots of us, I'm one of us too, are in the age group with Chiron in Aries. It just means that Chiron in the sky right now is actually in Aries. So you're either already had your Chiron return, close to it, or will be having your Chiron return. And because Chiron is in Aries, the same sign as this new moon eclipse, they're not right exactly together, but Chiron's going to bring some energy into this, right? So more chances, opportunities with this eclipse and new moon to heal things around the self-image, right? To heal and bring out medicine around our authenticity and independence and just being who we are and being comfortable in our own skin, right? Being comfortable to say, hey, this is me and this is what I want, and not in a way that pushes other people around, but that is really gives ourselves permission to be okay just as we are, because that's a big Chiron and Aries thing. All right, so what is a solar eclipse? I always like to break down to the basics here a little bit. So a solar eclipse, it always happens during the new moon, and it's when the moon's shadow crosses the Earth's surface. And so in this case, the moon is between the Earth and the sun, because during a new moon, the moon and sun are together in what we call a conjunction. And so when this happens, the moon blocks the sun temporarily. Now, today or tonight or early tomorrow morning, whatever time zone you're in, this particular eclipse we're talking about right now is a solar eclipse. But just to let you know what a lunar eclipse is, since we're diving into a little bit of basic information here. Lunar eclipse always happens during a full moon. And it's when the moon moves into the shadow of Earth. So during a lunar eclipse, right, the sun and the moon oppose each other and the Earth is between them. So both types of eclipses, solar and lunar, are something gets eclipsed, right? Something is blocked out, the light's blocked temporarily, and then it comes back on. So all eclipses are like flashes of awareness. And you can think of them, one of the ways we actually have at Sage Goddess, there's, I don't have Karen just normally here helping me in the moderation side, so I can't as easily type in links and things, but we have a pretty good blog at Sage Goddess. If you just, yeah, can you share the Goddess Winks Eclipse blog? And then also, so Alexis is gonna pop in and share, there's a blog that can be helpful for you. And then also Alexis is gonna give the link to our Living Magic program, because if you like astrology and you're like me and you just like to be with people who like to geek out around it and learn more about ourselves and each other through the lens of astrology, I teach with Athena the Living Astrology class. It's part of Living Magic, and so Alexis will pop that link in there too, so you can easily find it. All right, so back to eclipses in general. I sometimes think of eclipses like goddess winking, right? Because eclipses do serve as spotlights, right? The light flashes on, the light flashes off. And so if you imagine yourself being, I don't know, in any room in your house or any place, what happens when the electricity goes out, all of a sudden everything goes dark, right? Well, all of a sudden you can't see things like you normally do. And then when it turns back on, sometimes you see things you don't normally see. And that's what really eclipses serve to do for all of us, right? They help us see things in a different light. So also in general, eclipses support shifts in consciousness and they bring changes. You can almost always think the word change, if you hear eclipse, it's about change. There's opportunity for change, change is upon us, change is being highlighted, right? Any of these ways you can think about change. So with eclipses, we have this new opportunity to see, feel, and respond differently. Keep in mind that eclipses always involve the sun and the moon. And so the sun in many ways represents our consciousness and the logical, rational way we look at things. And the moon is much more the inner, not less rational, more emotional, more mystical, more intuitive, more feeling part of ourselves. So it's kind of renegotiating how those two parts work together in there. Now, eclipses also expedite the inevitable, right? So they kind of accelerate things and it's sort of like, ooh, here we are in this situation. And, you know, sometimes we don't want to see it, right? With eclipses, sometimes it's sudden, sometimes it feels shocking, sometimes it feels like things are becoming unearthed. Sometimes we mentioned this earlier, but we feel anxious, and it's common, you know, it's funny, I was just mentioning to Alexis, my coworker here, that I woke up yesterday morning just feeling anxious, like it was in my body and I didn't have a specific thing to link to it. When we have things like eclipses coming on, we feel the energy, right? We're energetic beings. So it's normal during these times of change and things are getting stirred up to have those feelings. I'll talk a little bit more as we get into this about things we can do around it. We talked about moving the body. So if you missed that part, that's a really good thing to do, especially with the new moon eclipse in Aries. So think about this here. So during an eclipse, again, a celestial body blocks the light of another celestial body. And so for us on Earth, it's either the moon blocking the light of the sun, or it's the Earth blocking the light of the moon. So whenever one light is obscured, the energy shifts and then we have to adjust. So it's about adjustments. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Debbie, I hear you with the anxiety. And there's not, I don't have like, okay, here's the remedy that's going to fix it. But one of the things that's useful for me with things in general is no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what I'm going through, is one to just allow that thing to be there. Sometimes I even say, oh, I'm anxious, right? And I breathe that energy and I feel that energy and I try to give it space to be there. Because if we struggle and fight against the thing like anxiety, we actually just create bigger issues, right? Or more anxiety. So be with it. I do it when I'm angry too. Sometimes I'm not in a situation where I can just say out loud, right? If I'm in the middle of work, I can't just say, I'm angry in the middle of a meeting, but I can quietly on my internal voice say it. And there's something about that being grounding with, okay, here's where I'm at. And it gives me a little bit different perspective. So yeah, somebody's suggesting lepidolite. Lepidolite is awesome for calming the nerves and soothing overall the nervous system in general, and also helps you sleep better, right? Which sometimes is hard to do during eclipses, right? Or new moons and full moons stir things up. So sometimes, yeah, it's hard to rest. Parts of us are activated. So again, both solar and lunar eclipses, they're shadow occasions. They reveal what's hidden, right? And those of you who are familiar with working with shadow stuff, you know what it's like when you unearth something, right? Something in your metaphorical closet, under the bed, out it comes. Sometimes what we make it out to be before we see it is actually much worse than it actually is. There is something beautiful about bringing some light to something and let it show you what it is. Not in the contorted, kind of confined or restricted way that you've sort of labeled it, but what is it actually? Give it room to breathe. So again, eclipses affect our personal energy fields just like they change the Earth's electromagnetic energy, right? So again, we expect this stuff to happen. So it's not, you're not abnormal. There's not something wrong. Please don't hear this as any kind of medical advice. If you have a situation, you should handle it. But I mean, in general, we're all going through a little bit of heightened nervous system because we're picking up new energy frequencies that are going to help us move forward into the next phases of our lives. Now, with eclipses, certainly it's the strongest, right, during the eclipse, but you can feel it a month leading up to it. And eclipses in general, they set the stage for what's going to come over the next 3 to 6 months. And you can experience the effects even longer, especially if it's activating something really personal in your birth chart. So it's not like it's just a one wham bam today it's going to happen, right? It's a process. And then, eclipses in general are not my area of expertise. There are people that work with them in much more detail. And so if you're into eclipses, it's a fun thing to Google and you can learn all things about the bigger cycles of them. So here's the thing about eclipses and the lunar nodes. So many of you probably already know about what we talk about, the north node and the south node. Those are technically nodes of the moon. And in evolutionary astrology, we work with them, the south node representing our past life selves and our past life patterns and habits and the things we kind of bring into this lifetime. And north node represents our path of dharma or destiny, the way we want to experience ourselves in this lifetime. Together, they really represent the evolutionary path that we're on. And you can look at that personally in your birth chart, or we can look at that collectively. And eclipses always involve the lunar nodes, and they come in seasons. We usually have 3 to 6 eclipses every year. And eclipse season happens twice a year, about 6 months apart, right? So, that's just kind of the cycle of how it goes. Now, an eclipse happens when the sun is within 18 degrees of a lunar node. Or you can think of it this way, anytime a new or full moon is close to a lunar node. Now, there's more math and exactness to that, but that gives you a feel of it. So I want to talk about these nodes just for a minute because eclipses have everything to do with the lunar nodes. Lunar nodes are always in a pair of polarity signs, right? And they're there for about 18 months and then they change. So we have been in the Taurus-Scorpio nodal axis for a while now. So that's where the eclipses have been falling for the past about 18 months. But that's shifting into the next pair. And the next pair is Aries and Libra. And if it sounds like I'm going backwards, I am. It's because the nodes they move retrograde. So instead of going, from Aries to Taurus to Gemini, they go from Gemini to Taurus to Aries, and then after Aries back to Pisces. So if that's too technical, just let it go and we'll move on. So since November 2021, eclipses have been happening in the Taurus and Scorpio signs. This eclipse, the one we're talking about that's happening tonight or very early tomorrow morning, or tomorrow morning in different time zones, is the first in a new Aries Libra eclipse season. So it's activating this whole new integration or relationship between Aries and Libra for all of us. And the Aries Libra eclipse cycle or season is going to last about 24 months. So we're literally just jumping into that today. Now, in 2023, we're still going to have a couple eclipses pop back from Taurus and Scorpio. That overlap is normal. But here's the thing. So for a minute, just think about Aries and Libra. What does it mean to integrate those energies? What does it mean for them to work together? One real easy way to think about this is Aries is the me, right? It's me, what I'm doing. And Libra is the we, it's what we do together, and it's partnership and it's collaboration. Yeah, okay, so Michelle is saying her North and South Node are in Aries Libra. So yeah, so you're getting extra activated with this stuff. So this is the thing with astrology, there's always that global collective lens of things we're all doing together. And then there's the personal lens as well. So there's always both going on at the same time. But you can see we're really moving into this 24-month period of getting more awareness around when do I need to do my own thing, or when do I need to take the lead? When do I need to act on my own behalf? And when do I need to stop and collaborate? When do I need to listen more, to work together? Where do I need to find more balance, right? And then we're back to the Aries side. If I've been too over compromising or over accommodating, which are some of the Libra shadow sides, if I've not spoken up and said, hey, here's what I want, or here's what I need, because I'm afraid of losing a relationship or things turning ugly or things not being pretty, then this may be a good time to lead more into the Aries medicine. So again, it's always about integration. And anytime we're looking at the nodes and anytime we're looking at new moons or full moons, it's always, a balance between things. So I hope that helps a little bit. In general, by the way, the North Node soon, and this will be coming in a talk later, but when the nodes move from Taurus, Scorpio into Aries, Libra, so even though we're in that first part of eclipse season, the nodes actually haven't moved all the way there yet. When they do, the North Node will be in Aries, right? Which does let us know that harnessing Aries in its healthiest expression is something that we all need to be doing together. Yeah. All right, so solar eclipses in general. So now we're kind of getting back into real time more. What's going on tonight with this solar eclipse? So again, solar eclipses happen during a new moon. And because they come during a new moon, that brings new beginnings and unexpected opportunities. So lunar eclipses are a little bit more about seeing what doesn't work. And so during lunar eclipses, things tend to break down so we can let them go. During a solar eclipse, like this one that we're talking about, it really does bring new opportunities and helps us recognize kind of what we need to initiate and get going. Remember that during eclipses, though, it's good to wait a little bit of time after the eclipse before you actually set those new moon intentions, but the energy is about new things. How am I going to move forward? And right now, even if you're not going to formally write down your new moon intentions, which I'm not going to, but I'm feeling into it. I'm feeling into what do I need? What do I need to go after? What do I need to initiate? How do I need to stand up for myself? Another Aries thing is, how do I really need to be a champion? For me, but also for others and for life, right? These are more Aries things. So again, solar eclipses help us realize what we need in our lives and welcome it from the universe. Yeah. But remember, to receive something from the universe, we had to be open to it, right? So this is part of it. You got to be have open to receive what you need. And a solar eclipse reveals what's hidden from you in your conscious waking life. So the things that, again, like I'm in my room, how it normally looks, those lights turn off and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I didn't realize there's a little cat figurine sitting on my altar over there. How did I miss that? How long has it been here, right? That type of energy. And it doesn't have to just be in your physical space. It can be, oh, I didn't realize I was thinking this way, or I didn't realize I had the same old pattern repeating, right? It can be any different areas where you suddenly have this conscious awareness of something that was hidden before. So one of the questions that I ask is, what do you need to know right now about your life that's currently been hidden from your view? That can be actually a great intention to set during eclipse time. Yeah, because that's not an eclipse, not a new moon intention to like start a new project or start a new thing, but it is actually to be open to the information so you can see more and know more and feel more, and then make a better choice moving into whatever the new intention will be that you set. Okay, so a little bit about this eclipse, meaning astronomically. And I had to look some of this stuff up because the astronomy is not my forte either. I tend to be a very psychological, spiritual astrologer, so sometimes I have to really relook at the actual sky mechanics of things. But this is a really exciting eclipse. So not only is it the first eclipse of the year in the first sign of the zodiac, but it is super rare because it's what we call a hybrid solar eclipse. And a hybrid solar eclipse means that it goes back and forth between a total and an annular eclipse. And these hybrid eclipses, they usually only happen once or less per decade. Now, total eclipse is when the total light is blocked. Annular eclipse happens when the moon is farther away from the earth during the eclipse, and so it makes the moon appear smaller. So even though it blocks the sun, you can see kind of this little ring of fire around the edge. That's an annular eclipse. And so the way I think about this hybrid, meaning it's a total eclipse and now maybe a tiny ring of fire is there, it's almost like you can see a little bit and then you can't see it. You can see a little bit and then you can't see it. So you get these extra kind of interplay of being able to see what kind of wants to pop out into your consciousness. So again, with this being our initiation into Aries Libra eclipse season, it definitely is about independence because that's Aries, but it's also about cooperation because that's Libra. So Aries gets things started. Yes, it does, right? But it can't do it alone. So again, it's that balance. You know, I think about myself, and I'm Aries rising, so I'm very much a person that is, I can do it by myself. I don't need help, right? This is me. If you talk to my partner, he would tell you I'll be carrying 6 bags of groceries and he's standing beside me and I'm like, nope, I got it. I don't need help. It's a good time to look at when you do need to do it on your own and when you do need to get help or work together. So I know I've repeated that several times, but it is an important repeating theme. And even sometimes, when do I need to take action and when do I need to stop and listen? When do I need to stop and make sure that I've heard everyone's point of view or that I'm considering all the options, right? That I'm actually weighing the different options and making a good choice without just jumping forward. All right, let's see what else I have here. Yeah, now this particular this particular eclipse and this new moon, it is conjunct Jupiter. So Jupiter's hanging out there right with it. It's also conjunct the North Node, which right now is 3 degrees Taurus, so it has a little bit more time in Taurus before it moves to Aries. And it's also square Pluto. So kind of here's how I'm looking at this. Jupiter brings optimism, luck, and confidence. It's like it's harmonizing and boosting this energy, helping us really see a bigger picture so we can step into a new way of a new path. Not a new path meaning where we're getting to, but a new way of how we move through life. I think of that way. Jupiter is a path that way. Now, with the North Node here in the mix, it's connecting us with our collective path of Dharma. So, you know, you may have heard me say this before, that Taurus, with the North Node being in Taurus, Taurus is good about making decisions. It's good at tuning into body intelligence. It's good at following animal instincts to know what to do. So we have that added in here, which is giving us extra energy to make good choices, right? To know what has value, meaning, and purpose, and to get ready to take action on those things and to bring, with our actions, to bring more stability, right? To bring more even peace, right? And I understand that sounds like a very simple thing, and we're in times where that is not easy to do, but that is something that Taurus wants, right? It wants more peace, more equilibrium. And with a square to Pluto, that's a challenge. It's a challenge to keep the balance between our personal agendas and the needs of others. So one of the things I put here in my copy is, we all know life isn't all about you, right? Or we all know life isn't all about me. But your number one job is to be you. And my number one job is to be me. So to the extent that you're not giving yourself space to really be you as you are, this eclipse and this new moon is an invitation to get more in touch with that, right? To really look at, what you want, what you desire, to really look at how your energy wants and needs to flow more naturally. Not at the exclusion of other people, but to first check in with you, because I find that it's very difficult to have healthy relationships or to get anywhere with other people if I'm not in a good place with myself. And if I'm not authentically showing up to my relationships or to life, that causes all kinds of mix-ups, right? I get put in weird places. People, choose me to do things that don't make sense. Maybe I end up in jobs or even whole, long-term partnerships that aren't a good fit because I wasn't clear on me, right? So this Aries energy helps us get back to, who do I want and need to be as I am, so that I show up in the world that way, and then the world knows kind of what to do with me. It's like I come in with a little bit of myself and my space defined, which I find then leads to more fulfilling and better fits in jobs and relationships and honestly just day-to-day circumstances, right? You all of a sudden find like, oh, I'm right where I need to be. And that is because you are comfortable and in a natural place with yourself. Yeah. Okay, so in summary, because I know I've run on for a while, I knew I was going to talk a lot about this today. So anyway, in summary, eclipses signal that change is here. I'm saying this again. In this case, the sun is being eclipsed. So the logical, rational, the lights on part of us goes dark temporarily. And the mystical, intuitive, lights off parts of us, which is represented by the moon, by the way. Sun, I'm calling the lights on, moon lights off. That blocks our normal consciousness or processing, right? You can think of this another way. If the moon represents the heart, and if the sun represents the head, and if the moon is eclipsing the sun, then the heart is eclipsing the head. So pause and trust your intuition. Reflect. Listen to your heart. And once you come back to that natural place of realignment, then you re-engage, right? With your mind and your thoughts and all the rational process and all the things that we do. But that's not where the truth lives, right? That's not where the heart of everything is at. So to me, it's bringing us back to that space. And here's what I would say briefly before we go. What I'm going to do today, tonight, and tomorrow, and maybe for the rest of this week, is really pause. I mean, I'm still going to go to work. I'm going to do the things I need to do. But I'm going to put my attention to the inside of me to calm and pause, right? I don't need to get somewhere. I don't need to figure something out right now. It's a good time to reflect, to receive, to journal, to listen to music that helps you feel more open, more connected. Because eclipses are things kind of scramble. And so the more you can kind of, even if you have to move fast physically, the more you can on the inside be like, okay, I'm gonna breathe and I'm gonna get in an okay place with myself. Even if I am feeling anxious, I'm gonna be okay with that anxiety. It's okay. It's okay to feel what I feel. I'm gonna give myself room for the insights to drop in, for the intuition to kick in. I'm gonna write it down if it comes to me, but I'm not gonna work too hard to make sense of it or try to really figure it out. Let it come in. This is a beautiful time just to let new stuff come in. All right, so I do see some comments down here. Yeah, so Carly, you took a pause. Yeah, and it is. There's something about that pause. And not just eclipses, I really think all the time is good medicine, but especially right now, that pause, because it's very likely that you don't have all the information, or you don't have all the insight, or you aren't fully connected the way you will be, say, in a couple days. So if you can just kind of acknowledge, oh, wait a second, I'm probably going to get more information or another chapter of this story, or I may have a different feeling about it later. Let me hang out and see how that comes in. It will serve you. Yeah. And it'll make it easy on everybody around you too, right? That's the thing, right? Any drastic jumping to conclusions, feeling like we just can't wait and getting impatient, those things in general usually don't get us where we want to go. In fact, we usually have to backtrack more than we actually move forward. No. Okay, cool. All right, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Again, Alexis shared the links, and I'll be back on Friday to talk about Mercury retrograde, because we got just like we've got the sun moving into Taurus tomorrow too, so we've got a full week. But yeah, happy eclipse, and I will be looking forward to hearing from some of you about what insights you get, because I think sharing that with everyone is also important. Okay, everybody, take care. Love you guys. Bye.